The air is thick with the golden hush of candlelight, shadows dancing gently along the worn stone walls of the scriptorium. Outside, the wind hums through narrow cloisters, tugging at the ivy along the abbey walls. But within, all is stillness. A single candle burns low beside a parchment-strewn desk, its wax pooling slowly, scenting the room with faint honey and warm tallow. The soft rustle of robes, the slight creak of a wooden chair, and the delicate scratch of a quill meeting vellum are the only sounds that fill the sacred quiet. A monk, cloaked in wool dyed the color of river stones, leans over his desk, eyes steady, posture bowed with focus and reverence. His fingers are ink-stained, but his movements are sure, as if the flow of ink has become an extension of breath. The page before him glows under the flicker of light, each word unfolding like a whispered prayer preserved in careful strokes of deep iron gall ink. His other hand rests gently upon a worn book, its spine softened by centuries of turning. On a small shelf nearby, pigments and pounced parchment await, the muted reds of ochre, the faded blue of lapis, the gray of old ash. The night stretches on in tranquil procession. Through a narrow window, moonlight casts long silver bars across the floor, mingling with the amber warmth of the candles. The cold outside becomes a distant thing, kept at bay by the quiet ritual unfolding within these thick walls. With each line inscribed, the world retreats further, giving way to something eternal, something still. As the ink dries and the monk lifts his eyes toward the dim rafters above, the silence deepens, inviting the soul to rest in its embrace. A gentle rain falls beyond the high leaded windows, its rhythm barely audible beneath the vaulted stone ceilings of the abbey scriptorium. Outside, the scent of damp earth drifts in through a slightly ajar shutter, mingling with the resinous perfume of old oak and beeswax polish. The glow of several low-burning papers glimmers across the polished surface of a writing desk, revealing scattered scrolls, sharpened quills, and a small bowl of sand used to dry fresh ink. A young scribe, newly initiated into the brotherhood, sits in a woolen robe just thick enough to keep the chill at bay. He writes with care, but also with awe, his strokes hesitant yet growing in confidence. Across from him, an older monk nods gently, his gaze not one of judgment, but of quiet mentorship. Their shared silence is not empty, but full of purpose, of reverence, of the calm simplicity of work done without rush. The flickering light casts softened halos around the candles, while shadows play like spirits across the shelves of bound tomes and neatly stacked parchments. A nearby fireplace emits a mellow warmth, its fire a living heartbeat beneath the steady scratch of quills. Somewhere deeper in the abbey, a bell tolls the hour in low, lingering tones, reminding those within that even time here moves softly. As the young scribe finishes a sentence and carefully blots it with a square of linen, he looks up, eyes catching the gentle shimmer of candlelight reflecting in the ink bottle beside him. The older monk offers a small, knowing smile. No words are exchanged. They are not needed. In this quiet companionship, the shared devotion to patient craft, the night continues to unfold with grace. Outside, the rain continues, steady and soothing, as the ink continues its slow journey across the page. The scriptorium breathes in rhythm with the candlelight, its long, narrow chamber filled with pools of soft amber that reach only so far before the darkness gently swallows the rest. A long table stretches through the room, strewn with manuscripts, blank parchment rolls, and neatly tied bundles of quills. At its far end, a single monk sits in stillness, shoulders slightly hunched, the hood of his robe casting a quiet shadow over his brow. Outside, the night is deep and starless. Inside, time seems suspended. The monk's hand moves slowly, steadily, the quill gliding over vellum in graceful arcs. Each letter is formed not with haste, but with silent reverence, as though he is not merely copying a text, but embodying a thought, preserving something sacred. The walls absorb the sound, holding the scratch of the quill like a secret kept close to the heart. An oil lamp burns beside him, its flame low and unwavering. Its scent, earthy and faintly metallic, lingers around him, mingling with the faint trace of herbs tucked in his satchel, lavender for calm, rosemary for memory. His eyes flicker occasionally to the margin, where he's begun to sketch a quiet vine of green curling around a gilded letter. The colors are dry now, but the impression still glows. The scriptorium itself is old, its stones worn by centuries of footsteps, its windows shaped like leaves from another age. Even in stillness, the place speaks, in the whisper of wax dripping, in the low groan of timber, in the way dust dances in the candlelight. As the monk dips his quill once more, he sighs softly, a breath like a benediction. The world outside remains dark and unseen, but within these walls a gentle light endures, and the story continues, unfolding line by line into peace. Twilight lingers just beyond the high, arched windows, casting a gentle lavender hue across the cool stone floor of the abbey's heart. The last bird-song of the evening has faded, replaced by the soft rustling of robes and the faintest murmur of footsteps as the monks retreat into their various cells and corners. Yet one light remains, a small flickering candle at the edge of a wide wooden desk in the scriptorium's eastern alcove. Here, nestled between shelves of bound manuscripts and jars of pigment ground by hand, a middle-aged monk prepares his workspace with quiet ritual. He unfolds a square of linen, lays out his tools, a knife to shape the quill, a pumice stone to smooth the parchment, a dish of ink deep as night. There's no hurry. Each movement is deliberate, each gesture a meditation in itself. He begins to write, the letters forming slowly, confidently under his hand. The ink glistened briefly before settling into the aged page, the curves of each line echoing the patterns of ancient vines that grow silently beyond the abbey walls. A moth flutters near the candle, then disappears into the darker edge of the room. A log shifts quietly in the hearth behind him, sending a soft snap into the otherwise complete stillness. As he works, the candlelight reflects in his eyes, making them gleam with memory, not only of the text he transcribes, but of the many nights before this one, and the many that will follow. The moment is not new, but it is alive. With each word he adds to something enduring, something slow and beautiful. And as he pauses to breathe, to straighten his back, and to look out into the soft blue of encroaching night, the scriptorium sighs with him, content and timeless. The room is quiet but not empty, filled instead with the gentle murmur of presence, of memory, of warmth. A high arched ceiling cradles the flicker of scattered candlelight, whose reflections shimmer faintly on the ink-slicked surfaces of unfinished texts. The scriptorium holds its silence like a bowl, wide and deep, enclosing the monks who sit in stillness at their desks. Outside, a soft frost has settled over the gardens, painting the windows in pale, breathy patterns, barely touched by moonlight. In a far corner, a monk leans over his manuscript with quiet determination. His breath forms small clouds in the cool air, but his hands are steady, warmed by the rhythm of their task. A woolen shawl rests across his shoulders, worn thin by time. The parchment before him is smooth, delicately prepared from calfskin, its surface soft and pale beneath his moving quill. The text he copies is not urgent. It is timeless, a book of herbal remedies, perhaps, or psalms worn smooth from use. Occasionally he pauses to stir the ink or to adjust the candle, whose small flame dances gently with every draught. A second figure passes behind him, barefoot on the stone floor, offering a nod of shared solitude before disappearing again into shadow. As the hours pass, the ink darkens slightly, thickening with the cold. Still the monk writes on, guided by the rhythm of the text, the familiarity of form, the way the letters flow like water from his hand. The night outside deepens into indigo, but inside the soft glow remains, suspended in stillness. And when he finally sets the quill down, folding the linen over his tools, the peace of the moment lingers, weightless, sacred, whole. A hush blankets the abbey like fresh snowfall, soft, complete, untouched. The sky beyond the scriptorium is a dusky canvas of indigo and pearl, moonlight tracing the edge of the old stone windowsills. Within, the candlelit room holds the feeling of a sanctuary inside time itself. Wooden desks, heavy with age, form a quiet labyrinth where monks sit bowed in contemplation, some writing, some reading, others simply breathing in the stillness of the hour. At one desk, near the center, a monk moves with steady grace, his quill rising and falling in slow arcs. The parchment before him has been pricked and ruled with faint red lines, guiding the placement of each careful letter. Beside him, a wax seal cools in a small dish, and a cluster of rosemary twigs lies across a folded cloth, fragrant and grounding. The flickering candle at his side casts long shadows that sway like monks in procession across the wall. There is no sound but the scratch of quill on skin, the occasional breath, the distant creak of rafters settling under night's embrace. Above, a single beam of moonlight breaks through the cloud cover, illuminating a glass bottle filled with golden ink, a glimmer of light caught and held. The monk pauses to flex his fingers, then rests his hand atop the completed passage. He reads silently, lips unmoving, absorbing the words not as a task, but as a communion. Beyond the glass, an owl glides past, its wings stirring the silence like a sigh. The room holds its breath, and then exhales. With another dip of the quill, the monk returns to his work, and the scriptorium continues its quiet vigil into the deep, embracing night.